Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and our brilliant friends beyond the binary. My name is Connor Kelly O'Brien. I am the co-founder and executive director of the Scranton Fringe Festival. For those of you that know our organization, thanks for coming back. For our new friends, maybe some friends in Orlando or Rochester or anywhere that our featured guest has friends and contacts, I welcome you, I welcome you, I welcome you. I just want to take a minute to encourage everyone, if you're watching this tonight, if you tune in every week, now is a really good time. Share this directly, whether you're watching it on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Send an email, shoot it in a message, just share it to your wall. We're really trying to build up this weekly audience as we continue to turn the spotlight and focus on leaders in the creative cultural community. One more time, my name is Connor Kelly O'Brien, as it says right down there below. Hello, hello, friends. If you are watching this and you are in such a position that you can donate to help keep Scranton Fringe's in-person, as limited as it is right now, and virtual programming like Fringe Focus, like our upcoming Animal Crossing Festival at the end of February, or all the work we do year-round. You can donate via Venmo at Scranton Fringe, Cash App, Scranton Fringe, or PayPal at scrantonfringe@gmail.com, or you can go right to our website, scrantonfringe.org/support, to make a tax-deductible donation if that's your speed, if you're very tax-focused. We respect deductions. Yeah, and it's going across the bottom of the screen. Please, please, please tip now. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, if you can. No worries if you can't. Just share it, and that's just as helpful, almost. I'm excited every week. I'm really excited for tonight because we don't often get to talk with artists or let alone producers and administrators from other Fringe festivals. As much as we'd love for you to believe we're the only one, that's hardly the case. It is my distinct pleasure tonight. Our guest is a theater maker, writer, director, and producer, Lindsay Taylor. Lindsay is an award-winning producer, writer, and director. She is currently the theater producer at Orlando Fringe. I believe it's the largest fringe in North America, or at least the United States. She'll correct me on that later. And is a production manager for Rochester Fringe. She has been touring the North American Fringe Festival circuit since 2013. She has produced over 30 shows for herself and artists. She won the New Producer Award, Veteran Producer Award, and Spirit of the Fringe Award in Orlando before joining the staff, along with establishing an Orlando Fringe-ship program, which I've personally experienced, which helps acclimate out-of-town artists to the Fringe culture and allows the artists to explore the Orlando area with field trips at little to no cost to the artists. Me and Dan Amandy and Anna went to the Orlando Fringe in 2019 with my show Static. I should say our show Static, and we got free tickets to Universal Parks. It was such a great field trip, and they connected us not just to the big attractions, but to some wonderful small local businesses, which was so wonderful. In 2020, she co-created the IDA Committee, Inclusion, Diversity, Accessibility, to work towards creating an equitable environment for artists, patrons, staff, and volunteers to have a better experience at Orlando Fringe. She strives to develop a transparent relationship with her artists and seeks to set the artists up for success when they become part of the Orlando Fringe family. Let's learn more, and welcome to the virtual stage, Lindsay Taylor. Hi, Lindsay, how are you?
I'm good, how are you, Connor?
I am doing well. A little tired tonight, but I'm really doing well. How are things in Orlando?
It's going great. You know, we're getting ready for May, which is crazy to say.
I know. So your festival is in May. Yeah. Approximately how long does it typically run?
It's a 13-day festival.
13 days, wow. Real quick, for those out there who maybe not as familiar with the Fringe Festival circuit, or just specifically don't know too much about Orlando Fringe, can you tell us quick little tidbits, anything at all about its history, its scope, its impact?
Sure. We are the oldest Fringe Festival in the U.S. This year will be our 30th anniversary this coming May. We are a festival that is lottery-based, so it's not a juried festival, it's uncensored, and it's accessible to artists. That's kind of the basic rundown of it. We also have bring your own venues where we partner with different local theaters or spaces to produce shows not accepted through the lottery system. And we also have site-specific shows, which is in found spaces, which in the past has been anywhere from a bathroom to a van outside of one of our venues to underneath some trees in a field. So just kind of anything goes in that aspect.
Fantastic. For those out there that may not be as familiar or really understand how wide the North American Fringe Festival circuit is, in your bio we discussed that you've been working in the circuit regularly since 2013. Can just you personally, let's go back to Lindsay 2012, 2013, and talk a little bit about what was your first Fringe Festival, how did you get involved, and I mean, clearly something's going well. Why have you stuck with it to the degree that you have?
Yeah, I saw my first Fringe show in 2011. I had taken an improv class at a local theater in Orlando, SAC Comedy Lab, and my teacher was a Fringe artist. And he, at one point early on in the class, he said, "Oh, everyone should come see my show at Fringe." And I very loudly said, "What's that?" And he was pretty shocked. But at the time, I was working at Walt Disney World, and I kind of feel like if you're not downtown and you're mostly just working at Disney, you're in a sort of bubble in a way. Like it's not something that's immediately known as something to do. I think maybe it's changed now, 10 years later. But at the time, I didn't even hear about it at all. I remember seeing his show, and I asked how he got into the festival, and he just claimed that he just said it was a lottery. Like he just put his name in the hat and got picked. So I said, wait, so like without any experience, anybody can just be in this festival and in this huge, like 300-seat venue. And he said, yeah, you should do it. And I had not written anything before. I'd been a part of like little skits and whatnot throughout the years, but nothing like a show in any way. I wasn't a writer or director or anything, but I was really like invested in that moment. I thought it was just really cool. And I wrote a show with a couple people, and we brought it to the Fringe the next year. And I mean, like we had an almost sold out run. Like it was just this incredible spark of change in my life that I haven't looked back since.
That's awesome. And what show is that? Just out of curiosity.
It's called Lil Women, a rap musical.
Okay. What about the world of Fringe? Because every festival is a little different, right? Many are lottery. Ours, for example, typically isn't. And I know a few others aren't. But in general, specifics aside, what is it about Fringe festivals that you think are so wonderful and amazing?
The first thing I genuinely think of is that everybody fits in there. You always are going to find a show that you want to see, in which case you'll find audience members who like the same things you do. And you'll get to talk to them afterwards, and you'll build connections that way. And then you'll network about shows that you do resonate with. You'll network with people and get to chat with people about shows that you don't like or resonate with. It's always a conversation starter. And I feel like people build other shows in future years by meeting each other on the lawn. It's just like this hub of connection in every aspect of the festival. And I think you lose that sometimes when you don't go to school anymore. It's kind of hard as adults, I think, to meet people who are like you if they're not in your job. And I think Fringe gives you a chance to meet people outside of your job and connect and take risks.
I totally agree with you. One of the things that I really love, I mean, there's so much, what I really love is how, yes, anyone can put their name into the hat, but it really does empower independent professionals that often don't, for whatever reason, and it could be the most traditional 3-act structured, I mean, maybe not that long, but like traditional 3-act drama show, or it can be the most experimental avant-garde new medium. And what I really love about it is that it really does kind of put, if the festival is doing a good job of promoting the festival as a whole, it really does put the power in the hands of the artists and the audiences to, through the power of their dollar, which obviously tickets are kept to a minimum, but through the power of their choice, their time, and their money, it really does select, what grows and what does not grow. Obviously, I think it's important to recognize that we do need to take active steps to, fight against certain systemic limitations that some artists and artistic communities have faced. But as a whole, I think it's a really, really cool model and concept. What festivals have you attended as an artist or writer, producer, director?
Okay, so I've been to Orlando, obviously. Okay, Chicago, Fringe in New York, Capitol Fringe in DC, Rochester, Calgary, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Saskatoon, Edmonton, Tampa.
Wow.
Tampa, they're so close to us. I've been to a good amount. San Diego. I'm sorry?
Adelaide, Australia.
Oh, Adelaide? Oh my gosh. This whole year has kind of like
Remember that was almost a year ago?
erased my memory. Thank you. Yes, Adelaide.
Liz and I, so for those who who don't know, every 2 years, the World Fringe Association holds World Fringe Congress. It was in Montreal in 2016. Liz from Scranton Fringe attended. I did not. Did you attend that one?
Mm-mm.
No, neither did I. And then it was in Edinburgh, Scotland in 2018. And then it was at the second largest Fringe Festival, which is Adelaide, Australia in 2020, where we were back in January, February, early March before everything went to, hellfire. And then actually, where is it supposed to be in 2022?
In Orlando.
In Orlando, I was so excited. I mean, there were so many great options, but it was really cool to see it come to the States. And having been an Orlando Fringe Artist alumni, I know how wonderful an experience you are going to give everyone. Now, I know we're going to talk a little about the future right now. Obviously, there's this entire conversation, anything we're talking about comes with a little proviso that, as we've all learned, anything can change on a dime. As it stands right now, what is Orlando Fringe Festival's plans for the 2021 festival?
Sure. We plan on doing as close to the normal festival as possible. We are doing our indoor venues, but at limited capacity due to social distancing guidelines. We are doing all of our site-specific shows and our BYOVs. Not too much has changed in the exact format of it, except for just the socially distanced aspect of it. In addition to all the different regulations and procedures we'll do for COVID-19 safety procedures. And then we're also exploring our digital options as well, because we want to make sure that we stay true to one of our guidelines, which is being accessible. We want to make sure that people who don't come in person still get to experience aspects of the festival from home.
I'm sure that's a lot of moving parts, though, and that's a lot of, there's a lot of things that go into play on that, which is so wonderful to hear that it's something you're working towards. I wanted to mention, if anyone out there is watching and wants to comment with a question for Lindsay or myself, or just say hello or make a comment, we have a question from Liz from Scranton Fringe saying, "I can't believe we were together in Adelaide almost a year ago." I know, Liz, it equally feels like yesterday and a million years ago. Because when you have this life-changing, literally, Adelaide is literally almost the furthest point you can go from Scranton. We found that out after the fact, and it's like almost the opposite side. And it was so interesting. We got back from Australia in like March 3rd, and I, as many people know, was living in Manhattan full time, coming back into Scranton and working remotely. My subleaser was supposed to leave March 15th. I got back from the States. They were already gone. And I was set to go back into New York March 15th. The shutdown started. I was like, okay, and at the time it was like, oh, wow, I may have to stay here for another 2-3 weeks. And here we are almost a year later. I gave up my apartment, came back to Scranton full time for now. And in some ways I'm grateful because it's been nice to be near family, but it's definitely presented my own unique challenges and difficult experiences as a working artist and arts administrator. So what for you personally has been one of the hardest, and this is such a big question, but what's been one of the hardest things about working in your field during the pandemic? What have you personally found the most challenging?
Sure. I think just the uncertainty of it all. You're kind of, as an arts leader at a fringe festival that's, not planned the same way your normal theater festival is. It's not like one show is coming in for a 2-month period. It's like 140 shows are coming in for a 2-week period. So there's lots of different people to talk to, lots of different situations that you have to address with each artist constantly about, we have international artists coming in and like they're having issues because they can't get here, and then just everyone has a different reason for why they do the festival in general. So like balancing those normal concerns with this COVID-19 uncertainty is tricky for everyone. I will say I got the job as theater producer in July of 2019. So I've never actually had a normal fringe festival under my leadership. So for me, that part's not too difficult because I've just been adapting since the beginning. So if
see is what you know, this is all you know, then
yeah.
We have a question from Liz again, who wants to know, How did you start working at Rochester Fringe from afar? Yeah, so as we mentioned in your bio, I mean, obviously, I think the meat of your professional career and the bulk is centered in Orlando, but you do have a role with our friends at Rochester Fringe, which is another fantastic festival, very structurally different than Scranton or Orlando. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I was on tour in summer 2017, and I just saw, basically when I started working at more fringes, I would just like all their Facebook pages, obviously, because I want to know what's going on with different fringes and what they're doing. And I saw Rochester Fringe had posted that they were looking for a production manager, assistant production manager. And I was like, oh, I'll apply. I'm already on tour anyway. Maybe they'll let me just finish off my summer tour in Rochester because it's in September, which is the tail end of it anyway. And then Erica, who's the producer of Rochester Fringe, called me like a couple days later and interviewed me, and I got it. So I've just been kind of ending my summer tour every year at Rochester. And I do a lot of the stage managing for the shows in their Spiegel tent, which is like their circus shows and a couple other different events in there. So it's easy for me to kind of just slide in and just start managing there and help with their other events, of course. But it's very minimal pre-planning on my part. Except for this past year, I was the associate producer for their digital festival. So I started there around July, and I managed all of the digital offerings. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Before I move on to my next question for you, I just want to remind our audience, because we do have a nice amount of people listening. Hello to Grant and Joyce, who've reacted to one of our posts. Hello, hello, hello. Please ask a question or say hello in the comments. We'd love to hear from you directly. Now is a good opportunity if you're watching this and you're able to, I know it's been on the bottom of the screen for the whole time, but we do always encourage, please make a donation and tip if you can on Venmo at Scranton Fringe, PayPal, or directly through our website, and all that information is continuously ticker taping across the bottom of the screen. Just thank you so much. Going back to Orlando real quick, you mentioned site specific. Now we talked, now obviously there's the venues that you run, which are based by lottery, and then there's the bring your own venue, which are sort of empowering, like the LGBTQ Center in Orlando or other similar spaces. But specifically to site specific, because that's something that we here are always trying to, before COVID, of course, really we're trying to encourage our artists to not only understand, but take more advantage of, since I think we've been offering that as an option in our applications. Someone on my team, correct me if I'm wrong, the last 2 or 3 years before COVID. What does site-specific look like for Orlando? And I know that technically the applications are still open for that.
I said until tomorrow.
Until tomorrow.
Yeah, so site-specific shows on our end is basically the artist controls their schedule, their capacity, and they control all the technical elements of their show. And they kind of, the only real approval they get from us in a normal year, it's just kind of saying, hey, I'd like to perform my show in this little spot on the grass over there. Is that okay? Kind of question. And we just make sure that A, we have like the permitting for it, or B, it doesn't disrupt something that we already plan on doing on our end over there. Sometimes people will come to the park during the off season and say they want to do something in a specific location, not realizing that we already have something planned there. So obviously the festival does take precedence, but we'll help you figure out a great spot for your show. This year, obviously, there's more conversations with those site-specific artists about capacities and what they're going to be doing in terms of those COVID-19 procedures and whatnot, because we have our own separate plan, but we just want to make sure that everyone's safe. Yeah. It shows we're not running ourselves too.
We have a comment from Grant. Lindsay's first year of normal festival producing is going to seem so boring, and we all appreciate the work you've done in these non-normal years so much. Thank you, Grant. I agree.
Thank you.
Real quick, can you, and again, not showing favoritism, but just in your memory, what are some really cool, and actually it doesn't even have to be at Orlando, it could have been anywhere. What are some really cool site-specific shows that you've seen or, heard about at the festivals you've attended over the years? I'm just trying to give people like a scope of like, because right now with COVID, right, besides the obvious financial impact and ability to safely gather in mass, I think one of the frustrations has been, it's been so creatively taxing, right? And the thing about site-specific at this moment in time is that can provide a solution, in theory, and you still have to be safe, of course, to so many of those problems. So can you give me an example of some that you've seen, whether it was at Orlando Fringe, Rochester, or anywhere?
Sure. In Orlando, the two that stand out the most to me in recent years are our Kids Fringe producer actually produced a show in a swimming pool. And they did like synchronized swimming, like a water ballet. And the swimming pool was at someone's house that was about like 2 blocks away from Fringe. And that was really cool. It was called Aqua Dance. And then another show, I think it was in 2019. It was called Fury and Sound. And it was a show with the, with the silent disco headphones. And they had like a live band recording music and live actors, and just kind of like the sound was being through the headphones. It was just a cool opportunity for our guests to kind of travel around the park and like with live everything. And it was just really interesting and unique.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember when I was there, I don't remember that, but I did see there was, like a show out of a back of a van. I remember.
Yeah, Madam P. Byra.
Okay. What was it called?
It's Madam P. Byra Scaravan Sing Along. It's usually like up to 6 people. And I think he does like 40 shows of Fringe, but it's only 6 people in each show.
So that may not, in typeface, may not work for 2020, but I love the conceptual concept. When we were at Edinburgh Fringe in 2019 in August, my sister and I specifically went to see a show literally in the back, kind of similar in the back of a caravan, like trailer, but it was super artistically designed, and it was like a miniature shadow play, only about 20 minutes long. I think there was maybe 8 of us in the van, and it's, obviously that can't happen right now, but it was such a cool, unique experience. So we're always challenging our artists to not just think of the stories and the methods that you're telling your stories with, but even the physical spaces, because there's, I remember one person telling me that site-specific work, when done properly and safely now, of course, it can, people talk about production value, and what better production value than if you're staging your show inside an aquarium, or you're staging your show inside of a swimming pool, like you mentioned. So I think that's really, really cool. And the deadline is tomorrow, you said, for that?
Tomorrow, yes.
Tomorrow, okay. So maybe if you're watching this and you already have something in mind and or access to get to Orlando this May, maybe not the year for you, but definitely look into that and follow them to see what our other artists in the country are doing. And I'm sure it can provide a lot of great inspiration. Hello, Dawn. Hello. I want to know, so we talk a lot about, in the Fringe world, we talk a lot about accessibility and access. And in your bio, we mentioned that you chaired a committee in 2020, of diversity, equity, and inclusion. What was the impetus for? It's absolutely worthwhile. What was specifically the impetus for that, and what have you found so far? And I fully understand that it's an ongoing, never-ending process, but I'm just curious to know, as of right now, where are you in that conversation in your community?
Sure. Actually, Joyce, who commented earlier, is my co-captain in all of this. It kind of started in early June, around when all of the, I don't want to say all of the Black Lives Matter just started, but when it kind of like resurfaced again after everything that with George Floyd. And it was something that had honestly been on my mind a lot in the last year and a half since I got the role of producer anyway. I just was noticing that there was just an unequal amount of diverse people that were applying and being a part of the festival. And we wanted to really seriously look at that and see what we could do to break the mold of what we have been creating over the past 29 years. One of the major things we did was we just started, we've had a diversity lottery for a while, but that has only been 3 people were accepted, and this year we bumped it to 30%. This year in our lottery that just happened a few weeks ago, we were able to accept 10 people into that lottery instead of 3, which is super exciting. Our lottery is considerably smaller than it has been in year past because, there's like a pandemic going on. But it's just about, making people, like reaching out to people, really connecting with people, inviting them to be a part of what we're doing. I think the common misconception is if people don't know about it, they're not interested. But if people don't know about it, I think it's our responsibility as arts leaders is to reach out to people and let them know about it. I think that's important.
Absolutely. I want to mention, when you talk about the lottery, because some people may not be familiar with that system, in 2020, you had your lottery, and of course, the festival was not able to continue as planned. What happened to the artists that applied lottery in 2020 for your 2021 festival? And I know you might have already touched on this, but just to elaborate.
Oh no! So anyone who was in the 2020 festival got the opportunity to defer to this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about 50% took us up on that offer.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had our regular lottery about a month after when we normally do. Usually it's the first week in December, and this year we had it like the end of the first week of January.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I think it's really cool to see how you manage that, and I know that's a huge undertaking. What I wanted to talk about, before I forget, I wanted to talk about the program you created where you give free or low cost access to theme parks or tours or field trips for the artists. Could you talk a little bit about what inspired you to start that and how, in a very general sense, how that works for your artists?
Sure. It started when I became a touring artist myself. I would go to different cities, and there's some festivals you go to not knowing anyone. It is rare at this point now that I've been touring so long, but you go there, you don't know anyone, and you're trying to explore a city on your own. Mm-hmm. And even something as simple as like, where's the best place to get laundry? Where's the best coffee shop with Wi-Fi? Like, yes, I can Google it, but I thought to myself, like, I wish there was a way we could give that little package to our out-of-town artists so that they feel like comfortable about those little tiny things. Because if you can, lower anxiety about those small things, like they can worry about their show. Right. Because they're here to do their show. Right. And myself and my friend Katie weren't even on staff at Fringe at the time. I just kind of approached Mike, the producer, and said, hey, I have this idea. Can I just do this? Like, do I have to be a staff member? And he was like, no, just go ahead. So it started off with like just a list of essential things, like I said, like coffee shops, Wi-Fi, laundry. But then someone was like, you should offer tickets to like Universal Studios or Disney, because Orlando, Florida. And I said, well, I guess I could see if anybody on Facebook would be willing to donate tickets to Universal, because the process getting into Universal is just way simpler if you have comp tickets than it is Disney. So that was like the easier place at the time. And then I found like a lot of my friends jumped at the opportunity to give a free ticket to someone they don't know, but it was cool because they're an out-of-town artist. Right. So I think this year will be year 7 in 2021 of us doing this. But it started off with like a group of like 20 artists that wanted to we went to Wet n Wild, and we went to a water park, and then we went to Universal, and now we go to Wekiva and Universal. And last time we did it in 2019, I think we had like 67 artists that were able to get in for free because our like community donated tickets.
I was one of them, and I remember. It was such an ongoing process, and I remember you guys were so excited, and you kept us updated. You're like, we're 20 tickets short, and then like a day later, you're like, okay, we're only 10 tickets short now. We're hunting them down, and I appreciated not just your ability to keep us updated, but knowing how much work goes into a festival, let alone a festival of that size. The fact that you were still making it such a priority, because anyone wouldn't have blamed you to be like, hey guys, this is what we got. We're too busy, we're going to do first come, first serve. We're so sorry. But that was really, really cool. And it was such a fun day out. And it was, and obviously, I think it's such a good thing that festivals and arts organizations who have touring artists can take from. And yes, Orlando, you happen to have, be the theme park capital of America. But there's a lot of things that anyone can do in your different regions. We have artists that have organized, and we appreciate it so much, field trips to, we have we have a national train steam locomotive museum. And we have a coal mine tour, and it might not be as glamorous by any means, but if you're into that, and there's a couple artists who are like so excited about that, it's that thing you don't think about until you're there. That little break, that little respite, to recharge, especially when we're talking about a week or 2 week long festival, it can really make a world of difference. I want to give everyone one last call. This is kind of a last call reminder. If you want to comment, ask a question, say hello to Lindsay, anything at all, whether it's about Rochester, Orlando, Scranton, or anything we've discussed, now's the opportunity to do so if you're watching this live on Sunday, January 31st. Lindsay, we talked about the difficulties you've experienced as an artist and a producer during COVID. in the fringe world, but just you as a person, Lindsay Taylor, what do you do to stay mentally healthy, physically healthy, your overall well-being? I always hesitate to use the term self-care because that seems to have kind of taken on such a broad meaning these days, but for lack of a better term, what does Lindsay Taylor's self-care look like the last year or so?
Yeah, so I mean, I really enjoy going for walks. I have a pretty nice lake right next to my apartment complex, and I have a little dog that likes going for walks, so that's good too. And it drives me to go outside even on those days where you're not feeling motivated, which we all have for sure. And then I think another main hobby I have is crocheting, and I know Liz and I share that in common. But I really kind of picked it up more in the last couple of months. I think I've made like 5 or 6 blankets in the last year, just because it's nice to just kind of hang out and just sit in quiet and just work on something where you don't have to overthink it.
I agree with you, and I very much have also appreciated being in the outdoors, despite the fact that we're getting a foot of snow right now in Pennsylvania. Outside of that, and even in the winter, it's always a great time. Lindsay, I'm so grateful for your time and attention tonight. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. If anyone out there, again, last call for comments or questions. I don't want to be short, but we just passed the half-hour mark. We like to try to keep these a little bit bite-sized. If people want to learn more about your work or just Orlando Fringe in general, where do you encourage they go?
Sure. If you can go to orlandofringe.org is our festival website. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Just if you search Lindsay Taylor, I usually pop right up.
Oh, and I wanted to ask, in addition to the big festival in May, you do a mini fringe typically in the winter. And I know you just had it in January of 2021. What happened? How did that go? What did it look like?
It went really well. We had a combination of on-demand shows, just virtual. And then we also did some in-person events. We had like a mini lawn area, which is like behind our Shakespeare building, if you've been to our festival before, where we showed different fringe shows on the wall. We projected it like a movie night. And it was super fun. And then we had some in-person burlesque shows at night. And then just had like a vibe where people could come and sit socially distanced and see each other in a space that wasn't a screen. And I think that was like super important for our fringe patrons to see that we were still doing stuff and for them to get excited for May.
Yes, I can imagine. Have you found it difficult, and I'm not looking for specific numbers or anything, but in the arts, anyone out there, whether you run a fringe festival, you are an independent working artist, or maybe any arts and culture nonprofit, how have you found the conversation and relations with your donors and sponsors throughout the pandemic? Have they really stepped up? Have you found it a little challenging?
Our donors and sponsors are incredible. Back in May, when we canceled the festival, our sponsors just said, just keep the money. We're here with you. We're not going anywhere. And we know you need it. And our donors continue to give throughout the whole year. And we do different virtual events, and we'll have our annual 24-hour text to give-a-thon in April, where we stay up all night and do weird things. So everyone's stay tuned for that.
I'd love to talk to you about that. We, in our region, there's something called NEPA Gives, which started last June, which is a 24-hour of giving for multiple organizations. But we did really, really well that day, and we're gearing up for the second year. And it's 24 hours of giving. There's incentives and prizes you can win from this organization that does a lot of work in the lead up. And so just out of curiosity, what have you found to be one of the most successful and really audience enjoyable items that are activities that you did during your 24-hour text-a-thon?
We had like our bar managers like teach us how to make certain drinks, and I think our audience liked that. We like had each meal where we made it in front of everyone, and we were like told people what we were doing. So it's like, if you want to make calzones with us at 3 a.m., we're gonna be doing that. So like, if people
literally just did anything you could think of.
Yes, and our patrons really love that. I can confidently say that the weirder we are, the better. And yeah, it's going to be, we're like already planning for this year. So it's going to.
Oh, I can't wait. When will that be? Sometime in April, you said? Yeah,
it's April 29th through 30th. Myself and our development director, Lisa Hart, we stay up together for 24 hours and get people to donate.
Well, I will be watching, as I'm sure we all will be. Lindsay Taylor, Orlando Fringe, Rochester Fringe, and a phenomenal award-winning theater maker herself. Lindsay, thank you so much. Don't go away. But we are going to end the broadcast. Thank you for watching this. Next week, we have Glynis Johns, the CEO and founder of the Black Scranton Project, coming to talk to us about millions of things, but including, it'll be part of Black Scranton's Black History Month programming. And then the week after, on February 14th, Valentine's Day, me and one of my creative partners and the brilliant theater and filmmaker Simone Daniel, we're going to be talking about why we're both single, why we love each other dearly, but it would never work, and all sorts of fun Valentine's Day arts themed activities. And we are lined up through March, I believe, with guests. So tune in every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, or watch us back live, pre-recorded on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Lindsay, thank you so much to Grant, Liz, Joyce, Dawn, everyone who watched tonight. Stay safe, wear a mask. Bye.